Hi Danish learner, welcome back to my channel Danish Matters. I'm Tina Bakker, your Danish friend and tutor. Today we're talking about baptism in Denmark, and that can be all year round, but that is what we're talking about today. Now, before we get started, if you want a Danish course with Danish Matters, you can write to me, tina@danishmatters.dk. And know that you can also get a pre-course conversation. That means that it's a free conversation with me for about 15 minutes where we talk about your challenges and whether or not you would like a Danish course or whether or not our calendars match or we match. That is, you don't have to choose Danish Matters when you end the conversation with me, but we can talk about what you need your Danish for and what your struggles are. So write to you, tina@danishmatters.dk. So, baptism in Denmark. Baptism is called dåb. That is the word for it. In my last video, I talked about confirmation. And in that, as you can hear, there is the word confirm, which actually means that we are confirming our baptism. That is, if we are religious. As I said in my last video, a lot of people get their confirmation even though they're not religious. And the same thing goes for baptism. And even if you don't want a baptism, you can get what we call navngivning. That is, we give a name to our child, and that is done at the municipality. And also, if you want your child to be baptized, you can also go to the municipality if you want the baptism to take place later than 6 months after your child is born. So if your child is more than 6 months, you will need to go to the municipality in order to get your child navngivning, that is, give a name to your child. Now, when you go to a baptism, it is, of course, in church, and you will gather with friends and family to the child in church. And normally their closest relatives and friends maybe will be seated closest to the family, that is, together with the family of the child and closest to the altar. And that is also where their font is, while the child will be baptized by the priest. So the closest relatives, maybe also friends, will gather around the font, and the rest of the people will be sitting in the church. And there is a certain person who will be assigned their task of holding the child at the font in church. And that person, if it's a woman, she will be called gudmor. If it's a man, he will be called gudfar. Yeah? There are also at least one other person, maybe several, which will be called fædder. It has nothing to do with father or far. It's fædder with 2 D's, F-A-D-D-E-R. We are pronouncing them as softies, yeah? Fædder. They are in charge of the child if something should happen to the parents. It could also be the person holding the child, yeah? They could be both in one, so to speak. But they will be in charge of the child. They will take care of the child should anything happen to the parents, that is, death or otherwise, yeah? So they will be called fædder. And it is also their duty to raise the child in the Christian faith. And that is, again, not always taken seriously today. That is, sometimes it's also just tradition, but to some, of course, it is due to religious reasons, but just not to all. The most important is that they will take care of the child should something happen to the parents, yeah? In church, they are now standing around this font, the baptismal font, and the priest will ask the gudmor or gudfar what the name of the child is. And then this person will say that name, and then the priest will go something along the lines of, Jeg døber dig i faderen og sønnens og helligåndens navn, which means I'm baptizing you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Those are the words, yeah? I think the priests say a little bit more than that, but after that, the child is actually formally baptized. There will also be hymns that you will be singing in church, and when you enter the church, you can actually see on the wall what songs you'll be singing. You will get a songbook, that is a book with hymns in it. And at the wall, you can see the numbers of the songs that you'll be singing. You might have to take that little book yourself when you enter the church, and sometimes it will be given to you. Yeah, and then you will sit in the church and you'll sing those songs or those hymns. The child will be wearing a typical type of clothing that is, it looks like a dress. It's white and it's very long, much longer than the baby. And there usually is a type of ribbon with a rose type of color if it's a girl and a blue type of color if it's a boy. And that type of clothing, we do call it kind of a dress in Danish. It's called dåbskjole. And that type of clothing is something that some families actually keep and guard for generations. So a child might be baptized in this type of clothing, this type of dress, as their parent has also been wearing as their parents before them. So it's a tradition to keep this piece of clothing for generations. So that is one thing. After church, family and friends will gather outside and they will congratulate the parents and maybe also siblings to the child. And then they will go to the certain place where they will have their meal together or their gathering. It's usually a lunch. It could be at home, that is at the home of the parents to the child, or it could be at a restaurant. It all depends. So they'll go there and they'll have this meal together. There will be speeches and songs probably. But if you're not one of the closest relatives, you're not expected to write any speeches or create any words or rhymes for a song. It is for the closest ones. They do that. And there's a lot of that at Danish gatherings, also for weddings and confirmation, yeah, that too. In terms of presents for the child, they will be opened at the gathering when it suits the parents, basically. And there are certain customs around presents that the closest relatives, maybe also friends, but mostly family, give to the child. And the closest ones, they will arrange that among themselves. And some of the common gifts are cutlery. That's a little strange, but I believe that back in the day, cutlery was expensive because it was made of silver, normally. So at least when a child has gotten cutlery as a gift, the child at least had that to go with his meals. So it was a very practical, but also a very nice and expensive gift. And that still happens today. It might be a whole set, like a knife, a fork, and a spoon, but it could also be a spoon. I reckon it's because back in the day, meals were something that were eaten with a spoon. Could be porridge or soup. So it can also just be a spoon. And often there's a little inscription with the child's name on this type of cutlery. So I actually have just a few examples to show you. Couple here, which is actually from my grandfather's time. So I have inherited this from my mother. It's actually only this one. This one says Per, which was my grandfather's name. It's a type of fork spoon, a little strange, but yeah, made of silver, as you can see, and I have not been polishing it. This other one was given to my daughter. It actually depicts a scene from a fairy tale right here. It's a very nice one of silver, and it has her name at the back, as you can see. But they look very old-fashioned. More modern type of cutlery would be This is also for my daughter. There is also an inscription. I don't know if you can see that in the lighting, trying to show. So this is the fork, yeah, and this is a knife, also with her name written on it. So it can be any type. It doesn't have to be out of silver, which this modern one is not, or it can be of silver, just like the older kinds. It's a very nice present to get, and usually from close relatives. Some people also give a necklace with a cross, a crucifix, typically of gold, can also be of silver for the child. Maybe just for girls, I'm a little in doubt about that, but that's also a common gift. If you're not close, or if you're new in the family, you're not expected to bring gifts like that. Some other people will do that, and you can ask the parents if they have any type of wish list. If not, you can just buy clothes or toys for young children. Yeah. I think this is it. I'm just looking through my notes to see if I've forgotten anything. I might have, even if it's not in my notes. I think this is it. So I really hope that this video will help you navigate at least better during a church service and a gathering for a baptism in Denmark. Remember, if you would like a Danish course with me, you can write to tina@danishmatters.dk, and also if you would like a pre-course conversation. I just got left to say, happy Danish learning!